Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Yoma Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sarva Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sati Guru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Okay, we are back with Panchadasi. We looked into the physical body. Referred as the food body. For the past class or two, there was this very extensive description proving to us that the self cannot be the body. And for the arguments and the logic was many and very convincing. And it's difficult to...
Could you, Arlindo, Arlindo, could you tell me which page you are on?
Yeah. 99.
99. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome.
In the print edition, it'll be 95.
Okay, so we had all the reasons in arguments and analysis, logic, proving that the self cannot be the body. The body is made out of food. Food we either grow or we buy in the supermarket, and it is all matter. It is energized by life itself. There is this thing that infuse all elements, all food we eat. It is energized. The fresher it is, the more filled with vital energy. And this energy that later on is converted in the 5 physiological systems and so on. But food is something so inert, so gross, that it's difficult to believe that Maya has tricked us to believe that we are this bag of food. It's very, very intriguing that we can, sentient, conscious beings, such as human beings, with this conscious mind that knows of its conscious existence, yet so attached and identified with the supermarket. It's very difficult to believe it, but it's a fact. Somehow we get attached to our bag of bones. Mine I call the bag of bones. Some people may call it different. So to me, because I don't have much muscles, I have only bones, and the skin is deprived of most any muscle. So it's mostly it's a skin bag of bones. So how can I identify with a bag of bones and call it myself? It's something only Shwara, only Maya can be that powerful with its ignorance, with avidya. So it's just to take us where we begin today, after having looked at that, and then also Swami Paramarthananda brought into the picture the fact that the body is a byproduct of karma. This was an important point as well, okay? Because karma, our actions, and then the results of the actions, they are supporting the body. And furthermore, when this body is gone, and then we have a new body, custom-made to us, to our vasanas, to our subtle body, as a new birth, and then we can see that it's a product of karma, a byproduct of karma. And karma meaning to say our response to the environment, yet is something inert itself. It's just a reaction, overreaction usually, that we have to the stimulus coming from the Dharma field. So the body is coming from karma. Karma, as we know, is coming from this the Lord's law called moral, ethical, and psychological and karmic laws. These laws, this set of laws which operate in the jiva, human jiva. So these laws are there. And then the body comes. So the body is a byproduct of food, a byproduct of actions, a response, and a generalized law that governs mithya, which is causality, cause and effect. So none of that, which is basically a very dynamic system, moving and affecting and producing again and again effects that mix up with the field to become more causes, and all of that, as we know, is energy and slash matter. It's subtle matter, we could say, which produces the physical, the gross body, which is also infused by some subtle energies that keeps it dancing, according to Ishwara's script, personal script to each one of us. So it's just a recap from what we saw in the past. The new person, in the case of a rebirth, is the result of vasanas carried forward as they interact in a new environment. So we bring our bag of vasanas from the previous birth, and then that load, that bag of vasanas is going to create us another timeline in a new space, in a new culture and context. And then there, this bag of vasanas is going to operate this new Jiva Atma. And this Jiva Atma is going to keep interacting with the environment, producing more and more vasanas, okay? So it's just an ongoing, never-ending phenomenon. It's beginningless, and it can be terminated, but only individually, of course. The following verse is the vital airs, so the pranas, which pervade the body and give power and motion to the eyes and all other four senses. So these constitute the vital air sheath. So the prana sheath, the prana kosha, it's not the self because it's not conscious. Okay, that is a fair deal. So they are intelligently designed, as we know, the vital airs. So they manage to operate the entire body, all the five senses, all the organs of actions, and even the organs of receptions and so on. Everything is operated, is managed, is alive and functional due to these intelligent vital airs. You see that it says vital airs. It comes from air, which is a very, very subtle element, space, air. Out of this very subtle element, Ishwara designs 5 intelligently designed vital airs to operate all life, all creatures, in the universe are being operated by a sort of air which is highly energetic and highly intelligent to the extent of operating all living creatures. So it is a set of airs that pervade the human body, giving power, giving motion, and gives the ability for the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the nose to smell, and so on. And all of these 5 airs, which basically are the ones operating also our physiological systems, all of these together constitute what we call the prana maya sheaths, or the vital air sheaths. It's not the self because it's not conscious. So it's easy for us to understand that that prana or energy is not conscious, howsoever intelligent it may be, and howsoever often associated with the self. Why these energies are often associated with the self? Because it vivifies, enlivens and vivifies the physical body. And then whenever these airs, they leave the body and they do not come back, when they leave and they do not come back, and then the body begins its process of deterioration, of decomposition, okay? And then we have the impression that the airs are the self. But as we know, it's just energy, okay? It's not really the self. It's not conscious. It is dynamically and intelligently designed, okay? But, and how we know that it's not the self? Does any of you have a good idea of what is the most obvious logic to prove that it's not what I am?
Because I'm aware of it.
Absolutely. We are aware of our vital air, of our physiological systems, and the way, everything is being operated. We are aware of it. So I cannot see what I'm aware of it. So I am the consciousness in which the knowledge in regards to my vital airs is known. So I am the consciousness, I am the light in which the knowledge in regards to these vital airs is illumined and understood and known. So these vital air sheaths pervades and animates the physical body. It is the energy sheath that gives the power to all organs. It's so important. There are some medical structures or schools that treats the body by balancing the vital airs. This energy, they want these airs to be balanced because it's subtler than the physical body. The anatomy of the physical body is one thing, it can show defect, but the energies, the airs, if they are properly balanced, and then they are subtler than the physical body, than the anatomic body, and then you can reestablish health to the physical body as well, working on the subtler aspect of the body, which are the energies running the physical body. So we see that in some schools, medical schools. So it is that which make the eye seize, the smell, the nose smell, and so on. It's not the self because it's not conscious. These sheets pervades and animate the physical body. It's the energy that gives power to all organs. It is a factory that produces energy out of food. This is very nice. So in this system, it's going to run all our physiological systems, including the digestion system, respiratory system, and so on. And it has the power in the digestion system. This air has the power to convert food, into pure energy for the body. It keeps saying here that my internet is unstable. Are you experiencing that over there? How strange. But are you being able to hear me properly? Let's see if it gets better here. It converts food into energy. Into energy. Energy is going to allow us to move, to think, to act, and to speak. The Vienna distributes it. So there is one of these airs, one of these systems that's going to distribute. Apana removes the waste, so another system. Okay, the 5 active organs draw energy from the vital air sheath. So we have then the 5 active organs, so the organs of actions that we have, okay? The 5 organs of action, the 5 organs of reception, even the 5 actions, organs of actions, they draw the energy from these vital airs, okay? The intelligent airs, it gains the energy from them, okay? From the pranamaya kosha. Even the perceptive organs get their energy from it, even for the sake of us to perceive, not to respond, but to receive, to perceive. It requires certain energy. There is not a single aspect in our body that does not run on these intelligently designed airs, everything, because it pervades the entire physical body and pervades the entire subtle body as well. So it's all in there, operating the organs of perception, the organs of action, everything, the mind, the emotions, and the intellect, everything depends on this pool of energy. Even as a receiver, to perceive the stimulus coming, you require energy. The energy comes from this kosha. The annamaya is the anatomical system. So we have the physical body with its anatomical system. The pranamaya is a physiological system. Okay, so I'm not into this medical field of knowledge, but there is a difference between anatomy and physiology, as we all know a little bit about it. So the pranamaya is a physiological system. And as a system, it is somehow programmed. It is designed. It's programmed. Now, every system works. Why people say systems work? When I moved to the United States, this became good for me. I was trying to establish a small business there. And then I was trying to learn from people, and they would say, well, systems work because systems have to be properly designed and programmed. And then once it is systemized, like a McDonald's restaurant, it's a system, And I was trying to open a traditional small Italian restaurant, which was not systemized. It was depending on the owners, was depending all the time on the personal touch of the key employees and so on. It was not a systemized business, it was trouble. Okay, systems work, but we know when we have a system, it works almost like automatically. You understand? It does not need much intelligence or does not need much, discrimination, because it is a system. So we know that the body is a system and the pranamaya is a system as well, a physiological system. And every system is a sort of program. It's not conscious, although it is designed intelligently. So we need to understand that so that we don't fall for the idea that the vital air, the thing that keeps us alive, is the self, is consciousness, okay? It is not consciousness, it's not conscious. It is a program. I'm going to change the provider here to see if it gets better, okay? Can you hear me? Okay, so the other server has no internet, it says. I don't know why. So we stay with this one, and you stop me. You just stop me every time that there is a cut, a big gap there. So we know that it is a system, and systems are not self-conscious. They are not self-contained. Systems, they need to be systemized and programmed and even supervised. So the following verse says, that which gives rise to the ideas of I and mine with regards to one's body, dwelling, and so forth is the mental sheath. It's not the self because it has desires, is moved by pleasure and pain, and is subject to delusion, and also it's fickle. You know? So there are several arguments there to convince us, to suggest us that this mental sheath, you know, in which the I comes. So it is interesting because here it says that it is into the mental sheaths that the I thought arise, you know, and some other times it says that the I is the ego, and it arises in the intellect. Understand, the I and mine. It's something that happens in the intellect, whereas the mental, emotional sheaths, it's extremely fickle, you know, and volatile, and it's more emotional, as we know. There is a sense of I, the emotions, you know, mine, you know, the body, for example, and my attachment to the body, but doesn't matter. So the I is pretty much a reflection of consciousness on the subtle body. The subtle body has these different functions, we could say, aspects to itself. So it has this feeling, emotion, sensation every time it gets in contact with an object from the field, you know? And it immediately has this sense of I, the body, I, my experience, I, my sensations, I, my doubts, I, my emotions. It comes together. It is an I, it's an identification with the mental, emotional aspect of the Jivatma, let's say. Jivatma, as we know, the Jivatma is not the subtle body, okay? It's an I, but its I can be very, very subtle, very refined, or it can be more dense. You know, the same I, when it's fully identified with the food body, with the physical body, you know, it's still an I, but it's a very dense sort of I. It's reflecting the subtle body, but it's looking down to the physical body and say, I, the body, you know. But then it can refine itself to saying, I, my thoughts, I, my emotions, I, my experience, and so on. So that which gives rise to the ideas of I and mine with regards to the body and the dwelling and so forth is the mental sheath. It's not the self because it has desires, right? And why is that important? because desires, as we know, is a byproduct of self-ignorance. And the self is self-knowing, and it is purna. It is that from which, pure intelligence called the Lord, comes into play. So we cannot imagine that there is any bits and pieces of ignorance in the self for different reasons. And only if the self would have some sort of inclusions of ignorance, it could have a desire. And people say, maybe the self had a desire for duality because the self wants to experience. So this argument is not really valid, because the self is purna, and the self did not project anything. This is just a joke played by Mr. Maya. Maya is the one who wants to play this game and then project something in which the self cannot really participate, but it serves as the background, as a substratum, because anything that exists, even if it is an illusional existence, must exist within existence itself. So the self does not have any room for ignorance, for vasanas, and for desires. And here it said that the mental sheath cannot be the self because it's full of desires and fears. It means to say it's under the spell of Maya. It's under the spell of ignorance. Okay. Now, could it be so that I am that self which is absolutely free from ignorance, free from desires? Is there an element in my human experience that is absolutely free of this fundamental ignorance called desire for something in order to complete myself, to protect myself, to secure? Is there something such as this purna element, free from ignorance? So this is a good way for us to inquire, because this knowledge this self-investigation has to be done on a very practical level as well. We need to look within our own experience and investigate and look. Otherwise we move into the field of philosophy. So is this self, which is absolutely free of desire, does it represent my real nature? Can it be possible that I am absolutely free of desire and ignorance? Isn't it, Claudio?
Hard question to answer. I think in the human level, no. The only free part is the self.
But as we know, the human, the Jiva Atma, is an association, it's a combination of pure limitless consciousness or awareness, plus Maya, plus three bodies, and then we have the Jiva Atma, the reflected Atma. So consciousness is within the human experience, and we cannot deny that. Okay, and consciousness is there as a principle. Is a principle which is free of ignorance, free of desire. And this needs to be understood, but this needs to be also sensed. Sensed as a good word, because there is an aspect of ourself that is all the time shining without any desire for anything. But then the mind has its tendencies, its vasanas, its desires, its aversions. But there is something which is the illuminator of the mind, and its ignorance, meaning to say desires, is always there, and we need to be in touch with that fact. And this fact can be put to test in our day-to-day experience of life, because everything that I know, cannot be what I am, and that I must be this illuminator that knows my ignorance and my desires and my fears. Otherwise, where does this knowledge come from? Okay, this mental sheath is also moved by pleasure and pain. Yes, it has desires, and almost invariably, it desires pleasure, and has adversity or has an aversion towards pain. Unless the person is a little bit dysfunctional, it's going to love pain and refuse pleasure. Otherwise, human beings, they are moved by desires and desires for pleasure. They want to experience pleasure and to push away or avoid pain. The entire life, most of the case for all samsaris, they fully graduated samsaris is all about doing things to gain pleasure and avoid pain. And this is not the self. This is the mental sheath, of course. The mental sheath is moved by ignorance, desires, looking for pleasures and looking for avoiding pain. And it's subject to delusion. Of course, it is subject to delusion. It makes mistakes all the time because it's projecting pleasure on object. It's projecting value on object. It's projecting joy, security, and happiness on object. So it is subject to delusion. It's almost like delusional 24/7 because it is kind of looking for ananda in the wrong place most of the time. And then this I and mind feeling in the mental sheath is fickle, and it's fickle and volatile because it is very emotional. Why is the mental sheath so volatile and so emotional? Do you have an idea? Anybody has an idea why this mental sheath is so fickle and most important, volatile? It's all the time changing. It's changing all the time and moving and uncertain.
Maybe because it's subject to the three gunas. It's managed by the three gunas, and in his nature, it's very, it's simply his nature. I always thought that the mind simply his nature. It's fickle, so, but maybe it's because it's that from the three gunas.
Anything else?
Ramji says it's, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. I was going to say, because the thoughts are changing constantly, every thought comes with an emotion. And so then the emotions are changing on an ongoing basis.
And you, Lynn?
I'm thinking that Ramji points out that one of its functions is to doubt all this, topsy-turvy Raja stuff going on.
Yeah.
That everything is always changing, as Mark points out, that one needs to figure out stuff.
Yeah, I was going to point out the same thing that Marx says, because why it's all the time changing, doubt and fickle like that, volatile, because the Dharma field is changing all the time, and we never know what we're going to get. So the field of objects of experience, they keep hitting us again and again, and sometimes I like, sometimes I don't like, sometimes produce this reaction, sometimes that. The field is changing the moment to moment, and my first response to the field for these objects of experience is an autonomous reaction that comes from the energies, so automatically our vasanas, our likes and dislikes are going to react to what the field is presenting us. And if you really interact with the world, you're going to be experiencing this fickle and volatile sensation, you know, because the field of experience is changing all the time, and then our reaction is changing all the time as well. Now, as Mark says, because again and again the objects comes with thoughts in regards to the objects, and each one is going to produce a different emotional sensation to the mental sheath. And then there is also this aspect that this mental sheath is also has this nature of doubting. And on one level, we say, oh yes, thanks God we can say that thanks God we have this doubting function. Okay, so that
Arlindo, can you repeat the last thing that you said, because for me it was completely stopped.
yeah.
Just the
I was saying that
about
we can also explore what Lynn was saying, that this mental kosha, it is a doubting kosha as well. So it provides us with this ability to question and to doubt. Okay, and we can stretch that and say, yes, it's good that we have this doubting function, because reality is not duality. Things are not really what they are. But every human being comes with this doubting function far, far, far before coming even closer to suspect that the nature of reality is non-duality. Okay, so we naturally have this doubt because it's all based on, is it going to bring pleasure or pain? You understand? Is it going to be good or bad? Is going to be trouble or no trouble? You understand? So we are all the time, we are just like moved by pleasure and pain, and all the time asserting the field and try to understand, is it going to be good? Is it going to be okay, pleasurable or not? We have this fundamental doubt because we have a huge aversion towards pain, you know, and we enjoy favorable, pleasurable experience. It serves as an instrument of interaction. Yes, it's very important. This emotional, I mean, we know the entire subtle body is a very, very important primary instrument for us to experience and know. We experience through the subtle body, and we know through the higher aspect of the subtle body, which is the intellect. But even from the sense organs, we are still in the subtle body, and we experience, and we are feeling, we are sensing, we are questioning, and we are determining our experience, hoping that we are not being delusional again and again. So this is the entirety of the subtle body as an instrument of interaction, instrument of experience, okay? It serves as an instrument of interaction, this mental sheath. The mind goes out and contacts the object through the five senses in the form of five beings of consciousness. So now we are getting consciousness, and the consciousness somehow infused the subtle body with the five kosha, the five pranas, the five pranas. And then this energy is managing the entire body-mind complex. And then we see the mental aspect of the body-mind complex reach out into the world through the five senses, you know. And it's as if consciousness is just illuminating through the five senses. We say in the Drik Drisha Viveka, we have the 5 level, the 3, 4, 5 levels of the seer or the illuminator. Okay, when we stand as the physical body, and then we see the 5 instruments of knowledge, we could say that the physical instruments are the illuminator. You know, they are beaming out this light so that it can experience in the world from all possible means, you know, beings, highways by which this consciousness is moving through into the world. So it is contacts the world of objects through these 5 of the sense organs in the form of 5 beings of consciousness that is just manifest as the body-mind complex moved by consciousness, but it's more correctly to say that what's moving it is something else rather than consciousness, okay? It is reflected consciousness, it is the pranas, okay? This design, this intelligent design energies that are going to move this primary instrument of knowledge experience, which is the mental sheath, into the world, okay? Everything is moved by these intelligently designed vital airs. But these vital airs, they are integral parts of the subtle body. And as we know, it is the subtle body that is going to vivify the physical body. Consciousness remains there only providing the substratum on all of that. Are you following me? Consciousness, because the language here says that consciousness is moving and then it's beaming through, 5 streams and so on. So consciousness is there. It's mere presence providing, existence and consciousness so that Maya can do its show, bringing forth its pranas and the energies and so on. And then this complex organism such as the human body. Any object that falls within the scope of a particular being, this being of the sense, is illumined. Okay, so if we look into a butterfly, so we're going to look into the butterfly with the eye, the eye instrument vision, and the organs of vision as well, backing it up. If I want to objectify a music, so a sound, and then I'm going to use a different stream, a different being of consciousness. So each one of these will contact its object and illumine them. The vasanas are behind this, okay? We have the eye emotionally, and it's connected to the 5 senses, and behind it, what we have in the causal body, the vasanas. The vasana is going to somehow to whisper those suggestions to the mind, to the mental sheets, and say, hey, that one is going to really solve your problem. Go and get it. So we have the vasanas behind all of that. The vasanas are going to direct the traffic, where you're going to go to gain pleasure and to avoid pain. Any object that falls, the vasana is directed towards an object, and it begins to gather information about the object, the qualities or the properties of the object, never the object itself, and then it claims the object as mine. So this is the teaching about the I and the mind. So the I is amazing, ahamkara, the ego. The aham comes in immediately, it craves for a definition. It say I and mine, and the most fundamental mine is I and my body, okay? My instrument of experience, I and mine. And then I start collecting objects of experience and say, oh, this object I integrate to my I. So this object here is integrate to my I and my body. So we're going integrating things like that, psychologically speaking. The following verse, we jump to the intellect. The intellect, which is the reflection of pure consciousness and which pervades the whole body up to the fingernails in the waking state, but disappears in deep sleep, is known as the intellect sheath. It also is not the self because it changes. So now the intellect. So the intellect is the highest aspect of the Jivatma, okay? Is if the I exist on the emotional level, the mental level is very fickle and very volatile and confused and full of doubt when we are just looking to our intellectual faculty of determining, discriminating, discerning, you know. So when we are looking at that aspect of our Jiva-Atma, we are looking at the highest aspect, okay? It is said to be here a reflection of pure consciousness. So the purest possible reflection of our consciousness, it manifests itself as a pure intellect, subtle intellect, as I used to describe in the part. The subtle intellect is the one who is so refined, it's so dominated or how you say, influenced by sattva guna, that produce this I, you know, in its most fundamental cognitive, you know, function of I exist, not as an emotional creature freaked out and not knowing what's going on, but I am that I am. You know, it's the most fine, the finest possible I. No? So this intellect is this pure reflection of consciousness, and the pure the subtle body is, the pure this intellect is, and more clear about being the light behind the lights of the five senses and so on. Huh? But in this intellect, it's said to pervade the whole body up to the fingernails. So now there is a mix-up, how you say, language here, because we know that what pervades the physical body, here it says pervades the whole body up to the fingernail. It refers to the physical body. We know that what pervades the whole body up to the hair and the fingernail is the subtle body. Huh? So the subtle body is subtle, and it pervades the physical body and vivifies or enlivens the physical body, okay? So, and it does so creating sentience and sensibility to the physical body, yeah? And it stretches itself through the physical body except for the nails, as we know. No? We know that the nails, they have no sensibility, so they don't feel anything. That's why we can cut it without having to take anesthetics or anesthesia or anything. Huh? And likewise, the hairs. The hairs somehow, they grow like the fingernails, but you can cut it without having to go to the hospital. Huh? So it's said that the intellect is this reflection of consciousness producing the aham, you know, in its most stable and clear, you know, expression of the original self, okay? But here it says also that this intellect pervades the entire body, but it disappears in deep sleep. So it is a fact that the intellect disappears in the deep sleep. Therefore, the intellect in its discriminating faculty, determining faculty, deciding faculty, it disappears at certain time. And then it cannot be the best representation of who we are as consciousness, as the self, okay? Because the self can never disappear. If the self disappears, and then the entire body-mind complex crumbles and disappears, destroyed. The self has to be there supporting through the three states, never not present, as we say. So it disappears in the deep sleep, okay. But the intellect, in that case, when it pervades the physical body, it's referring to the subtle body. And as we know, I like to make this clear distinction between the reflected consciousness, which is not the subtle body. Jiva-Atma is not the subtle body. Jiva-Atma is a reflection of Paramatma, of Brahman, pure consciousness, reflected in the subtle body, produce the reflect consciousness, they referred to as Jiva Atma. Okay, so we have the intellect is this nice, beautiful reflection of consciousness. It depends on the subtle body. The subtle body, the purest. The subtle body, the purest and the most clear and stable is this aham, you know, in the intellectual cognitive function. And then we have the subtle body that is providing this intellect, and it's also pervading the entire physical body, okay, stretching to all corners of the physical body, okay. So, but the intellect itself is not present in deep sleep, whereas the subtle body is present in this deep sleep, okay? Because the subtle body is present during this deep sleep, providing what? The free service of all pranas, keeping the systems, you know, in balance and everything. So the subtle body is always ever present. The intellect, which is a beautiful aham reflection, is not always present. The intellect, we are looking now about talking about the intellect, okay? The Vijnana Maya Kosha. So the intellect is there, it disappears in deep sleep. The subtle body does not disappear. The subtle body is the one pervade the entire physical body. This intellect is known as Vijnana Maya Kosha, or the intellect sheath. It's also not the self because it changes. Okay, so what does change? The intellect is not always present, and that is enough for us to determine that it cannot be the self. Okay, the self must be existence, must exist so that the body-mind complex exists as Jivatma. Okay, so now in the deep sleep, it's not there. And besides, it changed. So now how can we find out, how can we know that the intellect changed? So the intellect is that aspect of our Jivatma, let's say, okay? Is the aspect, is the function of our reflected consciousness, this entity, okay? This intellect is that which is there to know things, to determine things, to discern, discriminate, and so on, sorting things out and making final decisions and so on. And how do we know that it changes all the time? How do we know that sometimes it cannot come up with a decision? Huh? Because we know it. We talk about that all the time, right? Oh my God, I can't make a decision, you know? I don't know what to do at this point, you know? Shall I go right? Shall I go left? Huh? So this intellect, it's there. I am the deciding factor here, but somehow, although my emotional body there, you know, the mental sheath is all freaked out, not knowing anything. I say, send it to me that I'm going to make a good decision, and once for all, we are done with it. But sometimes the intellect sits there without being able to make a decision. Have you not experienced that, Claudio? Everybody, no? So the intellect changes, and sometimes it makes a decision and then changes. One time I heard somebody telling me, like, you know what is the best thing in life? You can always change your mind. I heard that in the United States, of course. You know, the intellect can always change your mind. It's the best thing in the world. Don't feel bad about that. It's the nature of the intellect. You change. You change opinions. So it changes. It cannot be the self. So the intellect is resolved during deep sleep. And in that dissolution, there is no sense of aham, of individual self. it pervades the body in both sleep and awaking. So again, what pervades the body through the three states, okay, is the subtle body. I mean, in the subtle body, in the deep sleep, it says that the subtle body somehow it becomes the causal body. Okay, it leaves behind its visual nature to become a prana nature. Okay, as if it somehow it unfolds back into its vasanas. Okay, there is no sattva to hold this subtle body, and then, but in the waking and in the dream state, we have we have the subtle body pervade. It pervades the body in both sleep, dream, and awakening state, but imperceptibly in sleep. Yeah, in sleep state, of course, we don't see the aham, we don't see this I, we don't really sense neither the I, the emotional I, nor the higher I, which is a pure determining intellect, okay? If it pervade the nails and hair, we would experience pain when they are cut, but they are only gross matter. Yeah. So it's said that the hair and the nails are matter, and this matter is not pervaded by the subtle body, but it is pervaded by consciousness. That's why we need to understand those subtle distinctions. What vivifies, what enlivens, what moves the body is not consciousness. What does move the body is the subtle body with its pranas, okay? So, but consciousness is pervading everything. But without this subtle body, it is helpless because consciousness provides only its presence, its substratum, its existence, okay? And its conscious, intelligent nature as well.
Lindo.
Yep.
So we can say that the subtle body is in the vital air and in the mental sheath, but not in the intellect sheath. Is this a correct understanding? Maybe I have to understand better all the 5 sheets, but this is what you say, no, or not?
No. The entire body is sustained by the 3 energies. Okay. Mm-hmm. And why I'm saying in terms of 3 energies, because for the organs of actions, you require more rajas, and the rajas comes from the more dynamic energies. So some of these airs are more dynamic, okay, are more rajasic. The airs as well, they are made, everything is made out of the subtle combination of the 3 gunas, you understand? So, and we have some airs that are designed with more rajas. And so when we go to the energies that sustains the intellect, so what is the predominant energy up there? Sattva, of course. But there is some rajas there. There are some pranas which are, energizing and sustaining and keeping this intellectual function alive, okay? And there is tamas to structure it a little bit as well. I mean, tamas is also present in the subtle body through all its functions as well, okay? So this does not mean that they are not consciousness. So this does not mean that this does not mean that the hair and nails are not pervaded by consciousness. Will be more appropriate. Consciousness is pervading them. Consciousness is appearing as nail and hair. Everything is consciousness, but consciousness is none of these things, much less nails and hairs. So consciousness appears in matter as the existence factor. There we go. So in matter, like nails and hairs, it appears as the existing nails and hairs. So consciousness is there. That's why it was said everything is consciousness, and consciousness is also there. Yeah? Since existence and consciousness are non-separate, you can see consciousness in the nails and in the air, in the stone, in the earth, in every inert object. We know consciousness is present because consciousness is another name given to consciousness. Okay, Satchit or Brahman, let's say. Brahman is Satchit, existence, which is conscious and limitless, non-dual. Okay. And then there is a note here, but I clarify to the best of my ability here. It says, in this verse, the word intellect means the subtle body. Not entirely. In one passage, it seems to be the subtle body, but on another aspect, when it says that it's a reflection of consciousness, we know that the subtle body is just a reflecting medium, okay? So in this verse, the intellect has double meaning there, I would say. In one passage, it seems to point to the subtle body. In the other, it seems to point to reflected consciousness or the Jivatma. Yeah? Verse 6 ascribes the I thought to the mind, but other texts ascribe the I thought to the intellect. It doesn't matter as long as we clear the confusion. We look into those statements and we understand that this I thought appears on different levels. We see the functions of the subtle body. You understand? It can even appear as I the body, I the physical body, I the pranas. That's why we have 5 koshas. That's why we have 3 koshas within the subtle body. Yeah? The prana koshas, and then the mental emotional koshas, and the intellectual is the I, is the aham identified with those 3 levels. And then there is the 4th level that I was saying, that it can appear and immediate being fully identified even with the food body, the physical gross body. Anything from you? So the inner organ functions as the agent. So we hear this expression again and again. Jiva Atma is the agent, yeah? The experiencing agent. So we have a creation, we have the creator that brings forth this dharma field, this field of experience, yeah? And then it needs what? It needs an agent, an experiencing knowing agent, or experience knowing entity, so that it can be a link between the creator and the creation. Yeah? So the inner organ, this subtle body, this atma, this aham, yeah, expressed on different levels, functions as the agent. And it also functions as the instrument. How interesting that, huh? What is the difference between the image in the mirror and the mirror? Yeah? How can you separate the image in the mirror and the mirror? Okay, so these inner functions of the aham, okay, they compose, they make up what we call the atma, the agent, the experiencing agent. But it's not separate from its instruments. The instruments is the subtle body that's going to produce these different functions within this same aham. Okay, this ego, the ahamkara, it feels, it senses, it contacts through the sense organs, it determines, okay? So, and its own experience, say, I and mine, and so on. So it's not separate from the instrument of experience. Sometimes we say the subtle body is the primary instrument of knowledge experience, okay? And then we say the subtle body sometimes it's said, especially in the teachings of James Watt, that the subtle body is the Jivatma. But the subtle body is not only the instruments or the reflecting medium, it is the agent, and the agent is the Atma aspect of the Jivatma that can own its identity in Brahman, with Brahman, in Paramatma, Tattvamasi, I am that consciousness. Hence, although it's one, it many times is treated as two, the intellect sheaths and the mental emotional sheaths. Okay, we have these two aspects. And with the prana, we don't have much of this confusion, but I mean, in the spiritual world, there is a huge confusion about the nature of the Aham. Some people believe that, I am my emotions, and my emotions are much higher than the intellect. So we all know that. The spiritual world is filled with people who overrate. How you say? There is another expression, overrate the emotional, the mental, emotional sense, body. And say no, oh no, I want to feel, and I am my heart. And I move, my life is moved by my emotions. I have to feel, and then I decide and define my directions through my feelings. So there is a lot of confusion about that because people do not understand. There are two functions there. One is to sense, to the gate into the world, the gateway into the world that sense, contacts and sense the experience, and then gets a little bit emotional, sentimental many times, like Arjuna. And then it's there. But fundamentally, it's the same Aham, which is higher nature, which is the intellect sheaths, and the lower nature is the mental sheath. They are one organism. They operate in the inner and outer worlds, respectively. So this seems to be a nice verse to unfold, but we're going to leave it for the next Monday. Okay? I don't know why my voice is a little bit having a little bit of trouble today. Any complaints? Okay. So we meet soon again on Drig Drisha. We left it since a while, so we're gonna go back there to see what we can learn there as well. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. Namaste. We meet again in a few days, Ishwara willing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.